Tony, thank you for spending this time with me today. It's a pleasure. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, ever since I started hearing about you. And I think that started with your fight nights.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I know the most of. Are you still doing that, by the way?
Because of COVID, it's not happening at the moment, and everything I've been, the fight night has always been a great event, especially with charity angle, but also with fitness, and it's just one of those events where it brought Tokyo together. But
now, how'd you come up with the idea of doing fight night?
Actually, came up to me from a gentleman called Eddie Nixon. So Eddie, do you remember Eddie from Adidas? Eddie was a very, very big character. He was a member of the club and everything.
Okay. I do remember him.
Yes. Bold gentleman.
Yes, very built. Yes, I remember Eddie.
Yeah.
Yes, but he wasn't a member very long, was he?
He's not, because he transferred to Korea.
Right.
So
now, wasn't Eddie married as well?
Eddie was married to a British lady, and they had 3 kids.
Yes.
And so
I think I had his kids.
So I think so.
I did.
And so Eddie came and said, okay, me, Nathan, and Nathan from Club 360, and Dave Tom have this idea and stuff like that. Would he be interested? I said, okay. Fight night, it was for me, it was just something very interesting. Love boxing. I go to boxing events. Before this event, I used to fly to Vegas and go to the events there and just watch the fights. It's something I enjoy.
Right. Now, would you have how was this set up? What was the premise with Fight Night?
Fight Night was actually the fitness and charity. That was the whole thing that came into it. Fitness, because 12 weeks of training and everything like that, you had to go through it to be able to fight. So you had to go through 12 weeks of intensive training at the Club 360, and then you have to pass health test, and then you were allowed to fight on the night.
Now, who were the fighters? Who'd you pick?
No, it was interesting. The fighters came to an event one time and said, okay, like it was expats, it was Japanese, it was executives, it was a mixture of everybody, even housewives.
But you couldn't be a professional boxer.
No.
Okay, because someone could get really hurt.
But the thing is, okay, it was always matched between age and fitness and everything.
So you knew that. So after they did the 12 weeks of training, you'd assess them, and then they get put in their categories, so you wouldn't mismatch people.
That was done for the expert Nathan and all them. Those guys did all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get involved in the health stuff because it was too crazy, but the doctors and everything like that made sure everybody's up to speed before doing it. And then it was the event, and that was interesting because
what kind of gear did they have to wear?
They had to wear headgear, they had to wear the gloves, and they had to basically the fights were shorter than usual, and you couldn't go crazy. It was a exhibition fight. What I mean by that was it was not about hurting the other person, it was about having fun. And
so there were no blows to the head?
There was blows, but you had the protection gear. It's one of those things where it's very easy to talk about it. Getting hit in the head is not the most pleasant, even if you do have a helmet. If you've ever had a bike crash or anything like that, you know. So
what was some of the more interesting times during these fights that you talk about that you really remember?
Well, one of the first things was I trained with the teams, the red team and the blue team. So because I was getting myself healthy at that time, and I have this premise of you can't ask somebody to do something if you don't do it yourself. So I used to go and train and get into it. But the ones that was most interesting was the female fights. The female fights were quite something, I have to say. The women used to go crazy for it. So some friends, they just loved it. I don't know
what was it about it that you saw that they were loving?
I think it was just expressing themselves and also being seen as something, a different perception in that environment. Everybody else is in tuxedo and gowns, and everybody that's fighting is in shorts and t-shirts, fighting in the middle of Tokyo, being broadcast live on webs and everything like that. And it had that atmosphere, and that was the nice thing. We're competitive by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Putting people on the spot and that kind of pressure, you see their character come through, and it's nice.
How many people would you draw?
It was always about 400 plus at the time.
Where did you hold these
Grand
These
Heights.
men- Grand Heights, always.
Yeah, it was always in the Grand
On the
Heights.
second floor? On the second floor
Yes,
of the ballroom?
yes, the ballroom there. That was always the place that was always been done. It was always viewed as the Las Vegas kind of theme.
Right.
There was always a reception beforehand, before people went to the seats and having the dinner.
Mhm.
But the emphasis was on the charity angle, because all the money generated from this was always going back to a charity.
Right.
And there's been 3 different charities. There was Refugees International,
Mhm.
there was Run for the Cure, and then there was Shine On Kids has been I can't remember now, 4 to 5 times the beneficial owner of the money raised.
I
So.
see. Yes. So how long did that run? Your fight
So I
night?
was
How many years?
involved with that for a long.
Wait, didn't you started that?
I worked with the Eddie and with
Who's-
Nathan and Dave and everything like that.
But it
So-
hadn't started before you came
no,
in, had it?
no.
It
So
started
that-
with
so,
you.
so we
it started-
basically, they wanted a lead sponsor. They needed somebody to do it, and I said, okay, I love it. I'll sponsor it. I'll make sure that we can go through with it. There's also different ways I got tickets, sales, and everything for them. So that one, I'll let it go. But
But how long did you do this?
4 years.
4 years?
Yes, 4 years. But also from my perspective, it's the competitive boxing and stuff like that. It's a wonderful. It's something that brings out the competitiveness, but also it's always about the health. That's the main thing that was emphasized. You're getting healthy, you're doing good, and it's fun.
Mhm.
It's especially living in Tokyo. You know this, Lance. Living in Tokyo, there's a lot of stress, and you need most people go into alcohol to stress, or food, or into different things. But having a stress relief like boxing and stuff like that, it changes one, and it's a nice one. So.
Mm. So it's one of your passions. Tell me a little bit about your life growing up. Now you told me that you were born in Wales
Yes.
and you grew up there till age what? Before you left?
19 I left.
19 you left.
Yes.
So you stayed there, and you told me you came from a
Small village.
Did you said there are fewer people there than there are in the apartment building you live in right now?
When I first moved to Tokyo, okay,
Right.
there was
Okay.
more people in that building than in the village I came in. So it's
And you're the only child in your family.
yes, only child.
Mom and dad.
Mum and dad have 2 siblings each. They have my cousins and everything like that. So I was the oldest of the family. I was the it was a very interesting dynamic growing up, because we were a very close family. So
Mhm.
my cousins and everything, we had this amazing connection. So we used to spend all the time together, going back and forth. So I didn't feel like I was an only child, if you know what I mean.
Right,
It's
right,
like
Well,
it
how
was-
close is your next relative, your next cousin? How many years difference? Or was it
1 month.
1 month.
Exactly 1 month.
Okay, but is it you're the only boy too.
Yeah, so it's
Everyone is
so
the-
basically the 1 month is to my cousins Sarah, and then the next one is Nia, which and then Ellen, Grace, and the other side is a mixture as well. So Fraser's so Stephanie. So it's crazy. Eileen.
Mhm.
So it's a mixture. It's a very
It's a
very
mixture.
yes.
And you're very close with all of them.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
How often, before COVID came out, how long? Oh, you were just back there. Didn't you get stuck there?
It's actually 1 year ago. Let me try and think. 1 year ago, 1st of March, I left last year. So that's exactly 1 year ago. I went home, and that was just during the starting of this COVID situation.
Mhm.
And I think a week later or 2 weeks later, as I was just about to come back, lockdown, and
You got lucky.
it was an interesting situation. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It's with work and everything like that. I've been traveling a lot for the last couple of years. Like I used to go every week or somewhere in the world. I used to jump on a plane. So me and my business partner Kingsley, we used to go and travel the world for business meetings. Events. We used to speak a lot in different events. So being locked down in one location for a period of time, it was very, very weird. It's I'm not complaining, I'll tell you that
Right,
much.
right.
But also I was complaining because after a certain time you get a bit
Claustrophobic.
yes, let's say claustrophobic. That's a very nice
good.
word.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as we're on camera, we better use the nice words.
Use
Yeah.
the nice words instead of other words. So you left Wales at 19.
Yes.
And that took you where?
So firstly, Chester, and then to Tokyo. So there's an
what did you do while
opportunity.
you were in Chester? What did you do?
Insurance. So insurance.
You finished college too?
College, yes.
Okay.
So I did college. So I was focusing on maths, business and law. So that was my speciality, but I got bored. For me, studying in books is very, very boring. I'd rather do practical. And I was very lucky to meet a mentor that taught me about insurance and about the finance industry. And I was best friends with his son, and he then taught me about the insurance, which I got really into and got fascinated, and that's where he brought me to Japan, and that's that's nearly 16 years ago now.
So, but what about the law part? How did that come in?
So the law part was just part because you have to know about the
Insurance
legal
laws, of course.
laws.
So you learned it during that time, not in college. I thought you said you learned.
No, I learned it basically when I was in college. I was also being mentored by my friend's father about finance and about everything. So it was all a mixture.
Everything.
So it was a mixture of everything. So his son was in the same classes as myself, in two of them. And we started, he said, you have to meet my dad and everything like that, you'll get along, and we did. And he basically educated me about the finance industry from the insurance side of things.
Right. So when you left Chester, where'd you go from there?
Tokyo.
To Tokyo. And how old were you when that happened?
19.
Wait, you went to Chester at 19? I thought you left this happened within a year's period? Oh, so you weren't going long. So you stayed in Chester for how long? A couple of months? And then from there, you went straight to Tokyo. And you've been in Tokyo. You didn't live like in Wakayama or Gifu
Tokyo.
or something. You were in Tokyo.
Actually, let's make it specific. I've lived in Minato-ku.
Whoa. There can't be more Tokyo than that almost. That's in the center. Because a lot of foreigners, as you know, a lot of foreigners come here and they live in Gifu, or they live way out in Hokkaido someplace. That's a different animal than Tokyo.
It is. But when I came here for business, I didn't come here specifically to enjoy the culture and have a job. I came here for work and then enjoy the culture afterwards. So it was like a reverse kind of situation, because people come here on the JET program, people come here on all this kind of programs, but I came here for business, and that was it. And
so who'd you work with when you came here?
So I worked for a financial advisory company, De Veer, and I worked for them with them until 6 years ago, and then started my own company. I went from FGC Group.
FGC Group.
So FGC Group is a blockchain finance company, fintech company. So we've started this company when I think Bitcoin is the easiest way to express the business we're in. It was a few $100, $100 when we started, then went to a few $100. But Japan became the leader in blockchain and fintech, and it grew from there. So we grew the business to international businesses. We were providing advice to investors, but also to businesses on how to structure and how to implement this into their day-to-day running. So now it's all taken off again now. So it's an industry where I'm glad to be part of, but also been part of it with my business partner since the beginning. Since we've seen some very, very interesting times. So
how did you meet each other? How did you and Kingsley meet each other?
That's an interesting. So I met him the first night I arrived in Tokyo. Literally the first night. Literally we met in a bar and had a drink. Literally the first night I arrived in Tokyo.
And you don't believe in luck? See what I'm saying?
Look,
some things happen, you just never know.
Luck is a word people use to describe your life or describe somebody else. Like, oh, you're lucky because you've done this.
I got you.
But it's all about hard work. What about this? I believe in destiny. I believe in certain things.
Right.
I believe energy attracts. I do believe that's the only thing that connects us all as human beings and objects and everything in the universe is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe energy attracts each other. It doesn't matter where or what.
I think the way you'd say is luck is something a lot of people use as a reason for not having what they want.
Mm-hmm. It is, and
they think that they use that as the main reason for not having what they really want to do.
And also, it's for us, for entrepreneurs, as yourself and myself and my business partner, it's like people always say you're very lucky, and I say, beep. I'm not going to use the word, so I'm going to be nice. I'm going to beep. I'm going to do myself. So, but the thing is like they don't see the 18-hour days you put in, the 7 days a week, the amount of hours, the amount of work, but they always say you're lucky, and that's the part that irritates me about the word luck. It's luck is never.
Yeah. It doesn't give you any credit at all for what you've done, the time you put into it,
yes,
the planning you have, your goals, what you're looking at,
the failures,
the failures. So that's the biggest thing.
Yes,
we learn from those.
It is. It's a failure is only a failure if you do it more than once.
That's right.
It's a lesson if you do it the first time, but if you do it more than once, then it becomes
a failure. The way of doing it is wrong.
Of course.
Wow. So anyway, so you came here. You worked with a financial firm. You started FGC.
Yes.
Which stands for
FinTech Global Consultants.
Where does it come from? FinTech Global Consultants. FinTech comes from where?
FinTech is the word that is described to the new finance, the new kind of industry, which is the blockchain industry. The FinTech is used for the new, like, payment gateways. And I'll tell you why. The company is called FGC opposed to FinTech Global Consultants, because having the word FinTech in the company names in Japan, it's just a lot of headache. Okay.
Gotcha.
But so it was always easier just to put it down to FGC, and it made life easier. It's just like Japan has the legislation for FinTech and blockchain, but the institutions haven't changed, so it just makes it harder, and putting it into katakana and all that, it was just like, let's keep it simple.
Just use the...
Yes, of course.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so where do you see your company going now? What does it involve? What is FGC involved in right now? What does it cover?
So it's advice to individuals that wants to invest into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. That's one part of the business. The other part of the business is companies that want to actually build on the system. It's like the internet, but on a different level. So we've been working with mining and how to mine resources without leakages. We've been using it for members clubs. We've been using it for businesses that wants to do it. Also food production, so people know where the food is grown to the table. They can actually track it all the way back. Also stops with fakes. There's also the other side of it on how to integrate it with the old and the new. So there's a lot of different areas where we specialize in. The finance side is the majority of what we do, but we do all the structuring side for businesses and for companies, the entrepreneurs that want to grasp the new technology. Do
you have a minimum amount that you work with if someone wanted to come and use your services?
It's all about, it depends on the individual, but people always ask that question. It's always the short term. Okay, is this person short-term, long-term, and the connections? Because people always look at it at the short-term gain. We always look at it and go, okay, this person is earning this amount, they want to invest this amount, but they're connected here, they can do this, they can do that. It's all about on the merit of the person and because people always believe you need a huge amount of money to invest. Yes, we do that. But the other part of it is always based on the individual and what we can. It's basically a push and pull. It's always a relationship and how successful we can use each other's, and that's the part we focus on. How can we work together and how can we grow?
So how do you set up a network like that? What do you do to try to join committees, belong to certain activity? How do you...
Okay, so the thing is, it's one of these... Committees is one thing. We always network and people know. Internet is another. We use geotagging and advertising for people to come and talk. But we also have a network of individuals, a large network of individuals, which they have their own groups and everything like that, where they basically refer back to us as well. So we're a mixture of the old and the new together.
Now, you told me this stuff that you want to do, talking about the future. You said that giving is a big part of your life.
Yes.
It's really important to you. So your charitable work, what do you see for the future?
That's the thing.
Is this you individually, or are you talking about FGC?
It's both. It's the
Both.
thing.
So it's just...
It's both. So the whole thing is, I personally believe in giving back to charity. It's the same thing as Kingsley. It's like we have this belief of giving back. That's one thing. It's one thing that we have inside of us. It's about giving back. It's very hard to describe into words. It's just that feeling. It's like giving back. It's so liberating because you actually give back and you help other people. It's a nice feeling. Also, it's energy. We believe in giving good energy and giving good resources because the world's all about that. So as individuals, we both do it, but as a company, we do it as well. So we support different events, we support different areas. So we support from the EFN to Run for the Cure. Then we support local charities in Nigeria in regards to giving resources and help when it's needed. Also here, Shine On Kids, we help Refugees International. There's a lot of different areas that we actually provide our resources, also time, but also our connections if need be. If something needs to be done, we're more than happy to bring them together.
So what kind of areas are you looking for in the future to get involved in? Do you have anything in particular that you had your sights on that you thought, hey, I'd really like to do something in this area, or outside of the club? Because we've talked about that.
Are we talking about the charity or are we talking about business?
Well, both. You can do whichever way you want to go.
The thing is, the planning for stuff has always been, it always creates a headache, okay? Creates planning too much far advance. I believe we miss the opportunities that's presented in front of us. So charity, we do more, and as the business grows and we become more successful, we will keep on contributing our time, our resources to different activities. Yes, there's areas we want to help, there's areas we want to look at, but also there's a different way of doing it. That's one thing that we've been going back and forth, is how can we make it more efficient? Because charities they always get all this money and they always spend it and they always want more. By creating a system where they can actually create their own ecosystem, it's something that could be much more efficient for a charity because of the way they're structured. And what I mean by that is all this money comes in. They don't have to spend or put that money to work into charity actions all at once. They could use that money to allocate into revenue generating ideas, and that's the part where we look at it as like making it more self-efficient, especially in this pandemic. It's one of these things where we've seen it's people complaining that we don't get charity donations, we don't get this, we don't get that. It's like, yes, because you keep on focusing on the way you used to do it. You have to adapt to survive, and that's what charities, that's what businesses aren't doing these days. It's like we're going into into a world where technology has leapfrogged probably 10 years from the normal course. So as you've seen, like everything's been done digitally, everything is being recorded and everything like that. But the way businesses work, this hasn't been adjusted, in my opinion, in our opinion. Charities is the same. We have to look at the new ways of getting it, like auctions or virtual events, different things. We have to focus on what we can do. If you focus on the problem, that's all you'll see. It's always about focusing on the solution. And I believe in energy, because if you focus on one area, that's all you see.
That's right, that's your manifest.
Yeah, so we have to look at solutions.
That's true. So I was just thinking, in the digital realm,
yes,
now that we've been through this pandemic and everyone's gotten a taste of it, regardless if they wanted to or not.
Yes.
You see everyone going in that in a big way?
Yes.
There's no doubt about it, because you even showed me the Queen of England.
Yes.
She's giving she's giving podcasts and doing different ways of communicating with the masses now.
She did. She did a a broadcast yesterday, a Commonwealth broadcast to. She's the head of the Commonwealth. She broadcasted out about the pandemic, about how to do all the in regards to the jabs, in regards to this, and you look at it and you go, okay, this is a 94-year-old woman that does this. But the thing is, okay, people say, oh, it's the Queen, other people are doing it. But yes, okay. But the thing is, you cannot make the Queen of England, or Queen of the United Kingdom and the head of the Commonwealth do anything. She's the Queen.
That's right.
But the thing is, that's the one thing, is the monarchy has adapted with time, going from newspapers to radio to then to TV to then to internet, social media, and now the live broadcast. So it's all about adaptation, and that's the part where I believe there's an opportunity as an entrepreneur, for businesses, as individuals. It's just like yourself. You've seen the opportunity in regards to broadcasting and everything like that, but other people might not see it, but you've seen it, and I agree, this is a huge opportunity just because of what's out there and what people can do. So I take my hat off to you for that. It's the same with the future. There's so much opportunity here, and people always focus on thinking, oh, the internet, it's already been done. It's like, if you knew how much shopping is done on the internet, it's around 15%, only 15%. So there's an opportunity there.
It's wide open.
So it's events. People complain they can't do events anymore. It's like, guys, the thing is, you're not thinking of it from a point of view. It's all about bringing the two together. You can do a physical event, but then you can also do a virtual event at the same time. And that's the exciting part, where you're only limited to 300 or people before. Now you're down to, let's say, 50 and as many people as you can get online.
That's right.
But you're not limited to where you are in the world.
In the world anymore, right.
It's global. And that's the part people don't understand and people don't grasp. It's like, we have this mindset of what we've learned. It's like we can't see outside of it. That's what technology has given us now, liberated us from the shackles of locations and time. Everywhere now can be reached through technology.
Well, the example you're giving too, that everything's become so accessible now. For example, to try to produce what I'm doing right now,
yes,
would have cost me thousands upon thousands of dollars 20 years ago.
Of course.
And right now, it costs nothing, basically.
But that's it. It's
like ridiculous.
Everybody these days is like, we call it a telephone, like a mobile phone. But the thing is, the mobile phone is not for making calls anymore. Mobile phone is if I remember correctly, I think that's the 5th thing people do in the phone. They put
all the different. I saw an ad like that where they showed all these different gadgets: a recorder, a video camera. They showed everything. You know, measuring tape. They showed a lot of different things, and they said, you don't need all of these. If you have this and a few apps, you're done.
Exactly, and I think there was another one in which they put a desk, okay,
right.
and they basically everything
all
started
to all the stuff we used to have, right.
But the thing is, okay, that has given us the ability for everybody to be a camera person, everybody to be a journalist, everybody to be a cook or whatever they want, everybody to access information as they want, news, everything. But the thing is, when you have access to everything, you don't know what to do or what to do with it.
Trained to.
Of course.
Exactly. That takes me to one subject that I saw. There was this woman that escaped from North Korea.
Yes.
And there's something that she said that was so profound. She said, in North Korea, all the decisions were made for them. Everything.
Yes.
The way their hair was going to be cut, the clothing they wore, the food they were going to eat, where they could go. So they had nothing to do other than the farming work or whatever their chores were. When she came to America, it was scary for her because all of a sudden she walks in the store and she couldn't pick one cereal. There's a vast amount of them and all of them look so similar. She said that was daunting. She said if they could guarantee her food in North Korea, she'd be willing to go back. Because emotionally, that's where the love she learned from there and everything.
Of course.
So she didn't care about the regime, and she said having too many choices can be worse than not having any. That was her feeling. And it was interesting. I had never looked at it from that viewpoint.
I agree with you. It's the same thing as going to a restaurant with a certain menu. If the menu's too big, you're like, The thing is, even in our culture, we both come from a very open culture. We come from a culture where you have choices. You're able to make choices. It's having that ability to understand you have to make choices is the main thing. I agree with you there. I used to live in China, so I know exactly this kind of communist feeling and the communist thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So just a slight bit, because I lived there and I saw how they are programmed to go a certain way or do a certain thing. The internet gives us the ability to do whatever we want, but we also have to have the ability to go and search for it. And I think that's the part, that's the difference. We actually have to have the mindset to do, okay? Too many people expect things to come to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ability to go and search, to go and do. That's the difference.
But I think that happens, I think, with a lot of the societies, particularly Americans. I can only speak for my experience. I can't speak for anyone else's. I think that in school, the schooling system, the way it was set up, they didn't teach you to search. They didn't teach you how to search. They didn't teach you how to look for things, how to question. But I found when I've talked to more Europeans, particularly in England, they think of them coming from a small island, but their world is the world. In the States, we think, at the time when I was growing up, if you lived in New York and you did business in California, you were international. That was international business to you. So I think teaching our children how to access this encyclopedia we have in our palm of our hands, where we grew up and you bought the series, and it was outdated the day you got it.
Yes.
You had to wait every year to do it. So I think that's what has changed. They don't know how to use it. They don't come with a plethora of information or curiosities.
Yes. And that's
they don't access it.
But that's the difference. Is like we have all this information in our head because we had to have it, because we just had to, because the way we were brought up, we had to educate ourselves, we had to learn all this information. Too many today is like, oh, I'll just go and search for it. They don't actually remember it. They think that Google have everything. And as you said, they don't question that information. There's too many, especially during this pandemic, it's shown too many of these fake news and too much information. And it goes back to the human psychology of the greed and fear. I have this psychology that humans, we do things for only two reasons: greed and fear, or the perception of greed and fear. Social media is great for fun, for pictures and to share information, but it's also a very, very bad thing to make people fearful, even if it's not true. It's like I've seen pictures of people sharing about Albert Einstein talking about the internet.
But there's all kinds of stuff. We can go on and on with that.
Of course.
What people are putting in there. That's true. I think it's how it's perceived, but that's what it seems to be lacking with a lot of the people. They don't know how to gain these resources, how to get access to them. They don't know what questions to ask.
Exactly.
And it's so much just, like you said, what they see on the internet, the TikTok, or whatever it is, and it's a few seconds, and it's just visual candy, but there's nothing emotional happening. There's nothing mentally happening. It's just visual candy.
Exactly. You say candy, I say chewing gum.
Okay.
the reason being is basically you put chewing gum, you get the taste, you spit it, and you get another one. It's the same thing.
Right.
So it's the same in my head. It's all this stuff about we have to question everything. That's the one thing is humanity has grown and come to where we are today because everything's been questioned and the boundaries have all been pushed. We've pushed ourselves, we pushed nature, we pushed everything to the limit, and then we keep on advancing. That's the part where curiosity never killed us. Curiosity's made us more advanced and everything. So that's the exciting part. I think that's the part that we have to keep on encouraging, the curiosity.
Tony, on that, I'm going to let you go with this. Listen, that's fantastic.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
You're
Anything that you'd like to add? That last bit was really good.
It's just one of these things where I think we could talk, and maybe we do one next time, but with a beer. With a beer.
That sounds good.
Alcohol.
The alcohol always tends to relax the mood.
No, I agree. It relaxes the mood. But my chemistry teacher said, if you have a problem, have a drink. And he looked at me and smiled. I said, why? He said, haven't you learned anything in my class? And I said, what do you mean, sir? It's like, remember, alcohol is a solution in chemistry and in life. I went, yes!
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. All of you that have just watched this, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this all the way through. And if you have any questions, make sure that you put them down in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked this, make sure you like it right now. And look forward to the next podcast.